Look to Chanukah, everybody. Um, Hope you've come back. Real gluttons for punishment. I'm kidding. I'm sure if you're back, then you're people that are seeking pneumius satira, the inner meaning of things. And I'll do my best to give you something, really to think about and to help you appreciate, the unique crossover that we have this weekend. Uh, you know, if you go by the term weekend in the strict sense, the secular sense, so Shabbos Sunday, we have everything that's the crux of Hanukkah, everything that's the crux of Hanukkah, right? That on Shabbos itself, we have not just Shabbos, but we have Rosh Chodesh, which are two out of the three things everyone knows that the Greeks legislated against. They legislated against Shas, legislated against Kiddush HaChodesh, and we have to understand why. What was their particular hang-ups about these mitzvahs, right? And it's just so interesting that there's not a Hanukkah where we don't have a Shabbos and a Rosh Chodesh. It's always a Shabbos, and it most often, almost always, if it's just one Shabbos, it'll be Parshas Miketz, this week's Parsha. So we're going to look for a connection between the Parsha and Hanukkah because it's always, it's just about always Shabbos Hanukkah. But there's always a Shabbos during the 8 days of Hanukkah. There's always a Rosh Chodesh Teves. So it's just interesting that okay. Thank you for hanging with us. My apologies. My internet connection dropped for a second. I hope you guys didn't lose faith. Hanukkah is all about keeping the faith, in the face of adversity. So I'm sure you guys didn't quit on me with my internet. Okay, I am so sorry. I hope now it'll be better. I switched servers. Let's take this again. Bear with me. Yeah, you got to go against all odds. You know, Hashmonaim also had to. They had many setbacks before they had final victory. The way of the Sitra Achra was trying to block good stuff. Anyways, you have to overcome the Manias. Anyway, uh, to get back to the point, the Yevonim legislated against Shabbos, Chodesh, and Mila. Right? You know, which also is like Sfarim put out, Chashmonaim, Chasham, is the root of the word, right? Right. They say their family name was Chashman. Chasham, Chodesh, Shabbos, Mila. And it's amazing how it always works out, forever and ever. At Hanukkah, it's like it's when we celebrate our victory over the Yevonim, it's mamish in your face. And it's that it's not just the victory over the Yevonim, but we celebrate a Shabbos during the 8 days of Hanukkah. So that's the two Shabbosos, and but always one Shabbos Hanukkah, and if there's only one Shabbos Hanukkah, it's always Parshas Miketz. So we have to look for connection between Parshas Miketz and Hanukkah because it's always that way, right? And there's always a Rosh Chodesh Teves, always. So like stick it in their face, that it's everything you legislated against. We are going to celebrate, right, during the 8 days when we celebrate victory over you. So you might ask, how can you guarantee that there'll be a bris milah? There probably is somewhere in the Jewish world, always a bris milah taking place during the 8 days of Hanukkah. Some do, somewhere in the world. But the very fact that Hanukkah is 8 days in itself is Merames, alludes to bris milah, which is on the 8th day. And this is not Jerush. This is something which is, innately the case. When David HaMelech realized how bris milah makes him belong to Hashem, even when he can't do mitzvahs, like when he's in the bathhouse, he came out and he said, it's a hymn for the 8th. Mila, that's on the 8th day. The din of Mila on the 8th day, that's not that halacha is actually part of its essence. Obviously, if another proof to this idea that the idea of the 8 is part of the essence of the idea of Mila. It's not like a zaitika din, as we say, in yeshivish. It's not a side halacha. It's part of it's a halacha that reflects the essence of the mitzvah. Is also right. Is also the what the Gemara says in Megillah Daf Yud Zayin. The Gemara is going through the structure of the Shmona Esrei, and the Gemara says that refuah, that we should be healed, that refuahenu, that we daven for refuah, is the 8th bracha of the Shmona Esrei. This is what the Gemara says. It's the 8th bracha of Shmona Esrei because it's parallel to bris milah. Because the most basic reason why every Jew would ever need a refuah, even if he takes great care of himself, only eats, vegan organic stuff, God forbid, right? But God takes unbelievably takes good care of. Everyone needs refuah for their bris milah, right? So that's the most basic need for refuah that every Jew has, because every Jew has a bris milah. He needs refuah from it. So they made the refuah in the 8th bracha, parallel to bris milah, which is on the 8th day. This is a very deep idea that I'll get into more in honor of the 8th day of Hanukkah, Zos Hanukkah. We're only going to touch the concept of Zos Hanukkah cursorily tonight because it is alluded to in Parshas Miketz, the idea of Zos Hanukkah. Right, that's why the 8th day, and the 8th day is connected bris milah because the idea of the 8th is not just a side halacha in how to do a bris milah. It is one of the halachas of bris milah that somehow are reflective of the essence of bris milah. And at that time, which will be Sunday night, Be'ezra Hashem, right, we'll deal with this on a deep level. We'll give a deep Zos Hanukkah Maamar, and we'll discuss also why the whole Bris Milah actually brought forward to the world. Before it's for Bris Milah, but also goes the other way because of the Bris Milah. Because that's why there is refuah in the world. God forbid there wouldn't have been Bris Milah, there would be no refuah. There'll be no such thing as healing. And I will discuss this in greater depth. So it's an amazing thing that we have. All the things that the Greeks legislated against are celebrated within Hanukkah. Within Hanukkah, it begs begs an understanding. Chodesh Teves per se, right? Has to do with Hanukkah, and we're going to explain how, because just like the Shabbos Parshas Miketz is always Shabbos Hanukkah, the Rosh is always Rosh Teves. And we'll discuss how elements of the month, how they have to do with Hanukkah, they're connected to Hanukkah. So it's not a coincidence. It's Chazal thought this through and legislated these 8 days so they should intersect with the Shabbos, obviously intersect with the Shabbos. Can't have can't go even 7 days without a Shabbos, right? So 8 days you go through a Shabbos, but also these 8 days it meant to cut through, Rosh Chodesh Teves. So we're going to discuss that tonight, and then there's also understanding the idea of Shabbos and Rosh Chodesh themselves. What's so special about them? Like, let me ask you something. I mean, I haven't checked the ancient Greek customs, whether they worked 7 days a week. I would imagine every society, gives a day off. What problem did they have with Jews having Shabbos? So there'll be a day that they don't go to work. From their perspective, there'll be a day that they're less prosperous because they're not doing anything constructive, from a Greek point of view. We have a problem with Shabbos. Right? But the question is even greater by Kiddush HaChodesh, much greater, because I did my research and my friends. Let it be known they had the same type of calendar we have. Like, people assume that they must have, had a solar calendar, so they were against the lunar calendar. No, this thing that going and count by the solar calendar, that Edom, the Romans started that. And all the drushes of Chazal say they count Lechama, we count Levana. That's from the Romans onwards. Right? That's where it started from. The Greeks had a lunar solar calendar just like ours. Just like ours. They counted by the moon, but they, inserted an extra month here and there to keep it, in sync with the solar cycle. So which makes the question even greater. So what they have a problem with Rosh Chodesh, right? They have a problem with Kiddush HaChodesh. Right? And of course, if so some might say, well, if you knock out Rosh Chodesh, then there's no Yom Tov. So listen, so just as we say in Yiddish, speak to the point and just outlaw keeping Yom Tov. No Kiddush HaChodesh. They were against the calendar. Now we spoke last night, and we started discussing this issue, right? And we're going to revisit just some short elements of what we said last night. You have a commitment from me tonight, not as long as we went last night. I'll make a schmuck and I'll make it short and to the point. Bear with me. But we mentioned last night that Kiddush HaChodesh is the very first mitzvah we got as a people, as Rashi, the very first Rashi in the Torah points out on the words Bereshis. He brings that Turkov just started from Acharetz Delachem, right? So there's something about Kiddush HaChodesh that gets down to the very essence of us being the Jewish people, because it's the first mitzvah we got as the Jewish people. That's why they were against it. We have to understand why, because like we said, they also had a luni-solar calendar like we did. Talking about Kiddush HaChodesh. And we'll try to get to this, try to understand this. But let's turn our eyes to the parsha, and right. First of all, from the very, 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 very first, actually, to be technical, the very second word in the parsha is already an allusion to Chanukah, right? In the sense that Vayim Miketz, it came at the edge of 2 years. It's a very strange thing. Miketz, Lashon Katzeh, right? It came at the end, like edge, like as if after 2 years we're in a different dimension. Chatzeh is an edge. It should have said Vayi la'achar shnatayim yamin. That's what it says. That's what it says generally in Tanakh, right? You say some time passed. Achar, Vayi achar, Vayi Miketz, right? An edge. We came to the edge of the 2 years. Edge, and it should automatically cause a an association to Kates Hayamin, the edge of days. We call the end of days, which is an edge, right? And the question also why don't we say Sof Hayamin? Why we call it we call it Kates Hayamin, right? Right? Bikesh Yaakov legalos es ha-kates, we say in Parshas Vayechi. He wanted to reveal when God, he wanted to reveal, the word literally means he wanted to reveal the edge. So we always translate it, in context. He wanted to reveal when the Golus would end. But let's analyze the literal meaning of the words, right? He wanted to reveal the edge. The end of time is called the edge of days, right? And over here, it's the edge of 2 years. No question in my mind that this issue was on the mind of the Baalei HaMedrash, right, the Medrash Rabbah. And the Medrash brings a pasuk from Tehillim, which actually has to do with Shabbos. I'll explain. Another thing that Kates Sam Lachoshech, HaKadosh Baruch Hu put a edge to the darkness, an edge to the darkness. So I'm going to jump ahead, right, to how Chazal, elsewhere. I don't think it's in this week's parsha, but it's a Medrash Shochar Tov on that pasuk. You believe? There's a marriage, but Chazal said that pasuk refers to, right, Motzei Shabbos. That Adam never saw light. Excuse me, just the opposite. Adam never saw darkness until Motzei Shabbos. During the first 24 hours of his life, it's actually 36 hours of his life. And I think we mentioned elsewhere, in a different presentation, the 36 candles that we light, 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6 plus 7 plus 8 equals to 36. The light to the Chanukah candles reawakened the hidden light, the Or HaGanuz that was shining during the 36 hours of the 12 hours of Friday morning. And Shabbos was all light. First time Adam saw light was on a darkness, I meant to say. It was a Motzei Shabbos, and he was clearly worried that the world was coming to an end, and the Nachash would kill him at that point. It was a fulfillment of the night Vata Teshufenu Akev. You will, get him by the heel. He was really afraid for his life because he never saw darkness before, and Akash will put an end to the darkness, an edge, by causing him to invent fire. That's why we make Bori Morea Eish on Motzei Shabbos, right? And so hold that medrash in mind. But now let's go to the medrash in this week's parsha. If the medrash is bothered by the word Miketz at the edge, say la'achar, and the medrash brings the pasuk Kate Sam Lachoshech. HaKadosh will put an edge to the darkness. And the medrash says two pshatim. There was a Kate. There was an edge. It was impossible to keep Yosef in the slammer any longer than he was. It was like physically impossible. The destiny was stacked in a way that the amount of, for lack of a better word, latitude that the evil has to keep the tzaddik down had come to an end. Like it was totally cosmically impossible to keep Yosef in the slammer any longer than after those 2 years. Those are the 2 years between when he met the Saramashkim and when the Saramashkim finally remembered him, right? He could not stay in the slammer a day longer. There was an end to the time that the tzaddik could be held down. There's a certain latitude Hashem gives the evil, and where the evil could theoretically be victorious, we do our best to defeat it. But that latitude is all the evil has. When you reach the edge of that latitude, you're out of the game. Game over. You've left the game. You've crossed over the edge. The day after is not another just a day. The day after is like a whole different dimension, right? Because you left the amount of time ever allotted for the evil. So that's what it means. And the Medrash goes on to explain that also cosmically, Kate Sam Lachoshech, HaKadosh will put an edge on the darkness, that the Sitra Achra could, it could run rampant, but only up to 6,000 years maximum. We believe Mashiach will defeat it earlier than that. But, that's it, because Olam Hazeh, where, which is the stomping grounds of the Sitra Achra, it's a max of 6,000 years. Now, we believe it'll be less because Mashiach will come. But absolute maximum stomping grounds of the Sitra Achra, of the Eight Torah, is only 6,000 years. And that's what with this medrash, you understand why we use the term Kates Hayomim, the end of days, which literally means edge of days, the amount of time that evil could possibly ever reign and ever do whatever damage it does. HaKadosh Baruch Hu allotted it a very limited time. And all you have to do is just, so that means, let's talk about the positive ramifications of that, the positive implications, the positive meaning of that. That means all we have to do is keep the faith. If we can't defeat the Sitra Achra, we just got to keep breathing and just hold out till we reach the edge. Once we cross over that edge, he's gone, because we make it past the time and space that was allotted to him. We make it over the edge. Right? And that's what it means. Ani Hashem be'ita achishena. I am Hashem. In its time, I'll hasten it. So Chazal asked, what do you mean? That pasuk in Navi is self-contradictory. If it comes at the set time, then it's not hastened. If it's hastened, then it comes before the set time. So he says, Zachu, if we merit, Achishena, Hashem hastens it. But Lo Zachu, if we don't merit, Be'ita. Right? The Gula comes at its time. Why? We didn't merit it. No. It comes at its time because from the beginning, Kate Sam Lachoshech, the darkness, which represents all the evil, it's in a carved out parameter, right? It only has a certain amount of time, and it's only in a certain place, namely Olam Hazeh, and only for a certain amount of time, right? It's in a box. All we have to do is hold out till we reach the edge of that box. We get over the edge, and that should give us strength. That people despair. And there's a famous question that the Sfarim ask: how are we going to bring Mashiach? Earlier generations before us weren't able to make the tikkun to merit the gula. How are we going to? All we have to do is hold out. It'd be nice to maybe we. The whole question is, the kasha only starts. How can we be zochet the achishena if the generations before us weren't zochet? And on that, there is a teretz, by the way. We give be zochet the achishena, the hasten the gula, even though earlier generations did not merit it, because the merit of all the generations compounds. It's not just our merit. We're also, building on top of whatever they did right also. So cumulatively, we just add our little bit, and that could tip the scales to Achishena. That's the answer to that. But it was never a question of how will the Gula ever come, God forbid, because Kate Samlachosha, right? God did not hand over his world to the Sitra Achra, to the other side. There is a clear boundary to how he'll tolerate the Sitra Achra, being around and pulling its weight and being an opponent that requires defeating. Past that point, he's not even an opponent. He doesn't exist past that one, past the edge. And that's Kates, that's Yaakov Legalis Kates, right? So of course the case could be pulled forward, but that's why the word Kates, that Shibud Mitzrayim was never meant to be forever. And just like, and also psychologically, once you realize that, I'm speaking to myself, right? Once you realize that the bad times have an edge to them, they're not infinite. They're within a box. They have an edge in time and space. once you realize that you don't, it's not so overwhelming anymore. And that's why the famous, Jewish saying, "Gam ze yavor," don't worry, it'll pass. It's just so true. And the Gemara says this also, "Gzeira avida the butler." There's a gzeira, any gzeira, any decree against Jewish people is ultimately tends to be abolished. Hates some lahar. There's an edge to the darkness. Right? So that's Miketz that reached an edge. There's no holding Yosef back no more. Right? The Sitra Achra could hold him back and test him up to that point. He crossed that edge. After that edge, tzaddik only goes up. Right? And in the cosmically across the edge of days, the Ra is just going to, just be behind us. Won't have to continue because we left the arena of where he's allowed to, do his fooling around, and we have to put up, we have to fight against. Right? So now this especially has to do with Greece, right? Right. Me Kate's, so we say Kate's some. It doesn't say Kate's some Lara. It says Kate's some Lachosha. There's an edge to the darkness. Darkness. So now we have mentioned already multiple times that the Chazal see in the original darkness, Choshech zu Yavan. Right, darkness alludes to Yavan, and we've explained this already because they darken our eyes that we don't see. We don't. They cause us not to see the Torah. Right, they want us to see things their way. It's called to bring darkness. They want to cloud our Torah vision and want us to see things from their secular perspective, like what's going on today, right? They're trying to force us all to be woke. Shem Yatzilenu. Chanukah War 2019. That's the name of the series because it's just so true. We can't lose sight of that. Right, and with that, let's offer tefillah that our president, who is fighting for us, for Klal Yisrael, right? So never. I really don't think Klaus had a better friend than Donald Trump. Since Koresh, right, who gave permission to rebuild the second base of Miketz. Anyway, Rosh give our president great hatzlacha, and they hate him because he is fighting for the same ideals that Klal Yisrael stands for. All right, but back to our point, right? So Kate Samlachosh is another allusion to Yavam. So now over here, we're going to see that there is an allusion also to Shabbos and Kiddush. Right? But I can't hold back. I want to just drop a hint. I'm going to concentrate mainly on Shabbos and Rosh Chodesh, and their connection to Chanukah, aside from the fact that the Yavanim have decreed against them. I'm going to show how this is all interconnected intricately, right? But I can't help but drop a hint towards Zos Chanukah, because I said, Parshas Miketz is always read on Chanukah. So there's going to be allusions in the Parsha to everything. So Kate Sam Lachoshech, what we're going to show, Miketz alludes to both Shabbos and Kate Sam Lachoshech also alludes to Chanukah and Kiddush HaChodesh. I'm going to explain that. Right? But the continuation alludes to Zos Chanukah. Right? Chanukah in general and Zos Chanukah. Right? So Paro has a dream. So now something interesting to point out that I first heard this from my Rebbe, Moshe Shapiro, Zecher Tzaddik Kodesh Bracha. Subsequently, I saw it in other forum also. The two dreams, differ not just in the fact that, so first he sees really good stalks, healthy wheat, and then there's garbage, low quality, not good wheat, right? Not good stalks. And versus like really good ishmaka, cows, right? You should smash, for Parshas Miketz, Shabbos, Chanukah, Kavod Chanukah, really, and Shabbos should have really good meat. Zecher for the good cows that Paro saw in his dream. I'm kidding. But I'm having stand-in prime rib roast, the Kavod Chanukah. Anyway, by the way, the Ibn Ezra, it's some, if you have a complete collection of mirrors, the Ibn Ezra wrote a special Zemer for Shabbos Chanukah and talks about that you should really go overboard. the food for Shabbos that should be even better. It's a special zemer he wrote for Shabbos Hanukkah, really. Be very gishmak. Okay, I'm sure everyone out there will make this Shabbos gishmak. Total onik Shabbos. Right, because this Shabbos squared, because the Yevonim tried Chanukah and the Yevonim tried to abolish Shabbos. So Shabbos Chanukah, you got to go a little bit overboard in Onik Shabbos. Like I said, Ibn Ezra wrote a whole Zemer. The very fact that he composed a special Zemer for Shabbos Chanukah. But the theme of that Zemer is, put out really a mean spread, L'Kovet Shabbos Chanukah. Anyway, but the point I want to get to is not just that these were good cows, and they were like these terrible, emaciated cows. That's not the only difference between the two dreams, the good one and the bad one. There's another more subtle difference. Once you notice it, you'll never forget about it. The good stalks of wheat. Sheva shibolim, olos bekone echad. They came out of the same stalk. The 7 good ones came out of the same stalk. Now try to imagine what it must have looked like. Looked like a menorah. First of all, that's another clear remnants to Chanukah. The menorah in the base had 7 branches, right? So 7 stalks out of 1 stem. That's a menorah, right? But the 7 bad stalks, right? It doesn't say it. They're 1 stem. 7 are separate, unconnected, disconnected, right? 7 unconnected bad stalks. So the good ones were out of 1 stem. There's achdus, there's unity. Now the same thing by the cows. It says by the good cows, but Tirana Bachu, they were grazing together. So the question whether Bachu you want to translate it seemingly unclus, it sounds like it's translated in brotherhood. All right, but Rashi says, but they were grazing together in the swamp. They were together. Right? It doesn't say that the 7 bad cows were together. In the good, there's unity. Right? In the bad, there isn't. Right? Like the 7 stalks coming out of 1 stem. It's amazing. And you know that by the menorah base of Mikdash, it wasn't just 7 branches out of 1 stem, but the menorah was miksha achas. It had to be made out of a single solid piece of gold. It couldn't be made up of parts. It was amazing. Right? And that's the of the 8th. And we're going to explain it. So I'm just dropping, dropping some nuggets, to make sure you tune in again Sunday night for our Zos Chanukah Maamar. We're going to explain this, that the aspect of 8th is really in the achdus, the achdus that permeates all the 7, that's nature. That's the 8th. That's the concept of the 8th. And that's in Brit Mila, I'm going to explain. Concept of the 8th is the achdus, that's the +1 that binds all the 7 together. Right? But I've said too much. You want to hear more about this and what that's to do with Bris Mila, especially in the Zos Chanukah, right? You tune in Sunday night to the Zos Chanukah Maamar. But getting back to our point over here, Kate's some lachoshech, right? There's an edge to the darkness, right? The darkness is not infinite. It has an edge to it, which means all we got to do is get past that edge. So again, to recap, how it should give us chizuk right away, immediately, is that all we have to do is just hold out and retain our Jewish identity, and we'll make it to the end. We'll make it to the Geula. We'll make it to Olam Haba, right? That's what the the Maharal says. That he contrasts. Our arch enemy is Amalek, right? So he says Yisrael, right? Our name ends with the name of Hashem, Kel. Right? We end up by Hashem. We get out of the box of Olam Hazeh, and we make it all the way to Olam Haba. Reishis Goyim Amalek. Amalek may be the first of nations. That's why he's a competition for Yisrael Shnikol Reishis. But as the pasuk goes on, Bilam says about them, Va'achariso Adeovid. But at the end, he will be obliterated. Amalek has no future. Evil has no future. It only exists from here to there. It's stuck in edges. Right? So now we're going to discuss, how this has to do with Shabbos, as far as the edge, right? And also, but even within the box, even in the turf that was allotted to the evil, you could cut down this turf, like we say, Achishena. We could draw the Gula even closer, right? We could even deprive him of the space and time allotted to the evil. And that's the end of Shabbos and Rosh Chodesh, as we're going to explain. Let's talk about Shabbos first. Right? So why is Shabbos? You know what the word literally means? It literally means to cease, end. One of the, this is a very deep point. We spoke last night, right? That there's a connection between Hanukkah, the last of our holidays, right? The last of our holidays, historically speaking, and Pesach, the first of our holidays. We had Pesach even before we had Shabbos. We got Shabbos after we came out of Mitzrayim. And right, so there's interesting connection between them. We said so. Now Pesach is interestingly enough called Shabbos in its own right. You know, where by Sfiras Omer, Svatchem Mimachras or Shabbos, count from the day after Shabbos, and we know Al Pi Torah Shabbat Peh, that means that means the day after Pesach. Pesach itself is called Shabbos. Why is that? So the Ramak, Moshe Cordovero, the big name in Kabbalah, right, that paved the way for the Arizal, and the Ari revealed himself only after the Ramak was nifter. The Ramak says, Pesach is called Shabbos. Miloshen ach bayom harishon tashbisu saor mibatechem. The positive commandment to destroy chametz. Tashbisu saor. Let all leaven cease from your house. Pesach, and that's what it has in common with Shabbos. To cease, to shut down. Pesach shuts down chametz. Chametz represents the Yetzer Hara, right? But there's an earlier precursor for that actually lowers Pesach, right? And that's Shabbos, right? Shabbos shuts down the work week, right? You have the 6 days of Chol, and the 6 days of Chol, right? The 6 days of Chol, that's where we have all our tests, and we live in Olam Hazeh with all its tests, the 6 days of the week. It says in all the Svarim, from the Rishonim to the Achronim, you'll see this concept all over. The 6 days of the week are parallel to the 6,000 years of Olam Hazeh, right? And according to Plan A, we've only been 6 days and not 6,000 years. If Adam Rishon would have not eaten from the 8th to Das, Shabbos would have ushered in Olam Haba Mamish, and he would have called that he earned his Olam Haba by withstanding the test given to him. But he succumbed, and now for we say to Hashem, for you, for 1,000 years for us is like a day for you. Right? That's exactly what happened. That was the exchange. God wanted to be 6 days, right? We screwed up. So now it's 1,000 years per day, right? So the 6 days a week are parallel to the 6,000 years, which is the maximum Olam Hazeh could be, right? And that's its absolute, in worst case scenario, it's absolute furthest edge is the year 6,000, right? We believe Mashiach will cut that down. He was meant to cut it down substantially, but we screwed up, right? But he was supposed to cut it down, by a great deal. All right, what can we do? All right, but it's it. But the absolute maximum Olam Hazeh can ever be is 6,000 years. That's it, right? Right, and now in small, that's the 6 days of the week, right? 7th millennium will start, the world will shut down. Chad Choruf, shut down, and that will enable a transition in the 8th millennium to Olam Haba. And that's what happens on Shabbos. Shabbos shuts down the work week, right? And because the work week is shut down, that's why it's Me'ein Olam Haba. Shabbos gets us out of the box. The Goyim who don't have Shabbos, so what's the lesson in Parshas Noach, for which we learn Goy Shabbos Chavita, 4 seasons, lo yish botzu. It'll never cease. It never get out of the box. Shabbos is the wonderful gift we get out of the box. And why is it such a wonderful gift? Right? Is because how do you get out of the 3 dimensions? For us, these 3 dimensions go on infinitely. You know that? And we know that that's by no coincidence, 6 days are connected. They are parallel to the 6 edges of the 3 dimensions. Like, width has right and left, and length has up, down, and depth has, in, out, right? In, out, right? 6 edges for 3 dimensions. The three-dimensional world has 6 edges, and that's the inyan of the 6 days of creation, right? And it's called in Dor, by the way. It's called in Kabbalah, it's called the Shesh Ktsavos, the 6 edges. But those edges, we just call them edges. I'm not talking from a secular perspective, right? We just call them edges because it goes that away and 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 that away. Right? But we don't see the end of where those edges end. We never see where those edges end. Right? Even a one-dimensional creature could think that he's in an infinite reality. Right? He doesn't know from other dimensions that he doesn't care. The one dimension that he knows, let's say it's a creature that lives in width. So from his perspective, the width could go on infinitely in this direction and infinitely in that direction. Right? So we know 3 dimensions. Do we see an end to them? We don't see an end to them. Science speculate. Is there an end to space? Right? And that's the world of a guy. He can't escape from the body. Can't get out of it. Right? But there is something that in mathematics, is where, all the different directions end, but it's infinitesimally small that you can't, you can't, use it as an escape hatch. It's called the center. And that's the end of the 7th. So he said that the 6th is in the Maamar, it's also in the Talmidei Agon, right? We said the 6, up, down, right, left, in, out. And those things could go on forever and ever and ever. Do they end? We call them shesh ktsavos. We said, yes, they have edges. Tzavot, katzeh, miketz. We say it does have an end, right? Just the end is to find that escape hatch is a gift from God. That's why it's a matana tova, right? It's called a gift from Hashem. It's really His day. He gave it to us as a gift because it's physically impossible to find Shabbos, if not for a fact that He gifted it to Klal. I know He gifted it to Klal Yisrael. For the Goyim, it's lo yishbos, Goy Shabbos chayav misa, right? Because Shabbos is the center. Now, how big is the center? Infinitesimally small. You'll say it's here. It's this dot. Well, I cut that dot into half and into quarters. I can subdivide that dot infinitely and say, well, this part of the dot belongs to this side. This part of the dot belongs to that side. This part of the dot belongs to up, and this part of the dot belongs to down, and this part of the dot belongs to in, and this part of the dot belongs to out. I'll subdivide that thing to the point that's infinitesimally small. And in mathematics, I tell you, the center is a theory. It's so small, it just exists in thought. It can't take up any space. Because if it take up any space, we just divide up the space that it takes between all the different directions. Right? But that's what Shabbos is, the center. It is the escape hatch from Olam Hazeh. It is the escape hatch from the world of Chol, the profane world. That's why Shabbos Kodesh, called Shabbos Kodesh. It's Kedusha, it's beyond this world. To go into the center, and you understand why it had to be a gift of Hashem. And that's why you need Hashem to make Shabbos. We don't sanctify. We're commanded to remember Shabbos, but Hashem makes Shabbos. No Jew in the world would make Kiddush, and no Jew in the world would daven Mariv. On Friday it would still be Shabbos. God makes Shabbos. It's His day, and He gave it to us as a gift. It's not something that it's humanly possible to create. It's not something that's humanly possible to access. It was a gift to the Jewish people. And that's why in our personal experience, we had to have Pesach before Shabbos. We had to have Pesach before Shabbos because Pesach made us the Jewish people. We were liberated and separated from the Goyim, and then Hashem gave us Shabbos. But from Hashem's perspective, Shabbos came first. Right? He made Shabbos during the 6 days of during the days of creation, right? And then subsequently, gave it to us as a gift. But God made Shabbos before Pesach because Shabbos is the concept of Kedusha, right? It's beyond. It's the point center that's beyond. To go to the centers, to get beyond all the different directions that seemingly of Olam Hazeh, that seemingly go on infinitely. Point centers where every single direction has come to an end. And that's Vayechulu Hashemayim. It comes to an end. And then Vayishbos, Hayom Hashvi, with the seventh day, you cease Olam Hazeh, and you get beyond, right? And that, so now that precedent of breaking out of the box is also what enables to import kedusha to Olam Hazeh. That's what we say, you blessed it from all days. Bracha is to bring in new energy, right? How do you bring in new energy? There's a law of conservation of matter and energy. It comes from the beyond. How did you get beyond? Through Shabbos. So it's because there's Shabbos that there could be such a thing as Yom Tov, including Pesach. But we couldn't have Shabbos without Pesach first. So God first made Shabbos. Then, with the power of Shabbos, there was Pesach. But after we went through a Pesach, then He could give us the Shabbos. Right? It's deep stuff, and I don't want it. The interrelationship, the chicken and egg problem that there is between Shabbos and Pesach is something that I spoke about, rather wrote about it. I spoke about it and wrote about it. Go to my website. Yeah, I should type this in and give it to you guys. You should go to my website. There's so many audios and videos that have yet to be uploaded. And Parsha sheets, evsia.com. Go visit my website. Right, Evan Shasia, did I write it correctly? See that? Go visit my website. So I have Parsha sheets on this issue, particularly a Pesach time. I discussed this. Take a look. But anyways, so the idea of Shabbos is that there's an edge. There's an edge to the profane world, the secular world, and the Jewish people have the gift of getting beyond, and the Goyim don't have that gift. So that's why, to a certain extent, they are not to blame. Nah, sure, of course they are to blame. What am I talking about? Of course they have to blame them. They're bad people. Democrats, liberals, leftists, right? But you can understand how they could be misled and make their evil, ideas, come up with evil ideas, because they look at the profane world around them, where the Yetzer Hara, has his fair share, and it looks like it goes on forever and ever and ever. It never occurs to them that what they see is limited and it's only temporary. It's only going to be for 6,000 years. And even during the 6,000 years, it could be vanquished. Even in the time that was allotted, they just view the possibility of evil as infinite, and therefore it has to be accepted. So, isn't there like one of these leftist woke lines? You just have to accept me the way I am. So if I identify as a tree, you better accept me that way. It never occurs to them that, even if first of all lunacy will eventually come to an end, and that's the idea of Shabbos, and of course even during the time that there could be lunacy, you could heal it. And that's the idea of Rosh Chodesh. We're going to get that soon. But let's first let's not jump the gun. Let's keep focused on Shabbos, right? So Shabbos, says that everything that the whole world that it comes to an end. You can't see the end, but the Jewish people see the end, right? And now, so we see the end through the Torah, which by no coincidence, the Gemara says everyone agrees the Torah was given on Shabbos. There are three things that have a common root: Shabbos, the Torah, and the Beis HaMikdash, right? And of course, Am Yisrael is the beneficiary of all these three things. It's our Torah, it's our Shabbos, God gave it to us as a gift, and it's our Beis HaMikdash. These are three parallel ideas, right? Now, Shabbos opens up our eyes to the real truth that sadly we can't naturally see because of the Chet Eitz Hadas, right? So we need the Torah to enlighten our eyes. It lights up our eyes, and that's what the Ner Chanukah alludes to, like we explained. Enlighten our, we should I should see. Right, so that's what the Torah is, right? Now, and the Torah by Okus was given on Shabbos. Shabbos is a time that we experience. We have 24 hours that we are beyond. That's why we don't wear tefillin on Shabbos. Ramchal explains, so everyone knows the halachic, because you already have an ice, you already have a sign. Shabbos is an ice, but the Ramchal says in Derech Shem, Shabbos is even bigger than tefillin. Tefillin, it would be an insult to wear tefillin on Shabbos, but Shabbos is marked to be beyond. Tefillin is to bring a little bit of sanctity of Hashem upon you within this world. Shabbos, you're past it. Shabbos is bigger than tefillin. We really have to take Shabbos more seriously. It's like 25 hours of a kedusha that higher than wearing tefillin. Well, right? We're in kedusha. We're not trying to bring some kedusha in and bind ourselves to some kedusha. We are in kedusha. It's like we're not living in the same reality as the goyim during those 24 or 25 hours, right? Right. So so now it has a representation in space, and by no coincidence, where do we learn out what you're not allowed to do on Shabbos? Where do we learn out? Where's it derived from? Melechas Mishkan. Whatever went in the construct of the Mishkan, which was the precursor of the base of it, that's what's also to do on Shabbos. And that's why you always find these two things mentioned together, right? Shabbos Mikdashi Tirah Hashem. Keep the Shabbos and fear and be in awe of the Mikdash. I am Hashem. These two always go together, and halachically also, whatever we are not allowed to do on Shabbos is derived on what went to construct the Mishkan. It's amazing, because the Beis HaMikdash is in space what Shabbos represents in time. Shabbos is a time that's beyond, right? Right. So also the Beis HaMikdash represents point center, that we're in Chazal's view of the globe, right? There's only two places, globally speaking. Then that global gets even more specific. But globally speaking, there's only two places: Eretz Yisrael, and Chutz La'aretz. There's like one country that's called land, everything else called outer land, outside. It's on the outside. Israel is the one country that's in, right, and everything else is Chutz La'aretz, outside of the land. Right, but we know that even within Eretz Yisrael, right, we're taught that Yerushalayim is at the center of Eretz Yisrael, right? And the Beis HaMikdash is the center of Yerushalayim, and the Kodesh is the center of that. And what do they call? It's called Bifnim. In the Heichal, it's called to be in, and the Kodesh is called Lifnai V'Lifnim, in the in of in, right? So you see, it goes in concentric circles. We have Eretz Yisrael is the center relative to all the countries. Everything else called on the outside. Yerushalayim relative to Eretz Yisrael, and then Beis HaMikdash relative to the rest of Yerushalayim, and the Kodesh HaKodashim relative to the rest of the Beis HaMikdash, relative to the Heichal. It's called in, more in, and innermost. Right? It's the center, and indeed in the base, just like Shabbos Kodesh, that place is called Kodesh. It's a holy space, the Beis HaMikdash. And like that, it comes to the point that there were miracles there perpetually. It's like a different dimension, right? The miraculously in the menorah, for say, the Ner Ma'aravi, Western candle, never went out. And in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, there was a spatial distortion that the Oron couldn't mathematically fit there, and yet it did. It broke all laws of mathematics. So Shabbos is in space. What Shabbos is in time. So now you get it. We said this right. They broke the walls of the Beis HaMikdash. They broke in, and we spoke about this a few times. That's why we have to support our prayer. Build the wall, right? The wall. We spoke about this yesterday and other times, right? They broke in. The Beis HaMikdash is off limits to them. But they were jealous of it, that there's like an inner space. There's a point center that's beyond this world, and they didn't believe in it. And if someone else has, if we don't have it, no one will have it. So they broke in to conquer it and to break the division. They broke the walls. They wanted to break, and annex it onto the space of Olam Hazeh. They wanted to break the walls, and we mentioned yesterday those walls are represented by also our metaphor for Torah. Torah, gives us the inside story, what's behind the wall, what's beyond Olam Hazeh, the other side of the wall. Right? They wanted to break the wall. No, there is no beyond. That space you call beyond, it's the same as our space. And what's true for us on the outside is true for there also. That's what the Beis HaMikdash space is, what Shabbos is in time. So they mamish, they legislated to get Shabbos. They didn't believe in the Kates. That all their science, that's also we have this problem even with this, serious scientists. I'm not talking about the climate change nuts. I'm not talking about that. right? I'm talking about even serious physicists. They think that these laws of physics are infinite, and they are true everywhere all the time, right? And the Greeks made the mistake of thinking that since these things are true everywhere all the time, even God is bound by the laws of nature. That's the Greeks thought, right? And so they didn't believe that all these things have a katzeh, they have an edge. And Shabbos displays that in time, and the Beis Midrash displays that in space. It's all true up to this point. And the Jewish people have merited to go into point center. That is the Torah, that is the Shabbos, and to have a Beis HaMikdash, right? Where in that point, all these laws don't apply anymore. And it makes you realize that since those laws are limited, they're only there by will of God. They don't have to be, because you see that they don't cross. They have their edge. Their edge is at Friday night in time, and their edge is at the end at the gates of Yerushalayim, right? At the gates of the Beis Hamikdash, where they end. That's their katzeh. That's their edge. So that's why when they broke in, right? They broke in. So Chazal were metaken after they rebuilt the wall and reinstated the border, right? So every place where there used to be a breach, the person facing that place has to bow. What's that? Not just you have to respect our borders, respect our laws, right? The borders, right? But it goes deeper. Bow is that the line doesn't continue; it doubles over on itself. You've hit an edge. The line just doubles over on itself. It doesn't continue. It doubles over on itself. You've hit the absolute. Acknowledge that there's an edge, right? Human affairs and human perspective. It doesn't go past that point. At that point, all collapses on itself. That's Shabbos. Rosh Chodesh, right, is something else, right? Rosh Chodesh, right, is that even the darkness, right, that there is in this world, right, that we say it has an edge. It's not going to last forever. Even this darkness in the world gets pierced. Who pierces it? The moon. The moon. Now, this is the secret of what originally the sun and the moon were the same size. And the moon, said, "What's there between me and the sun?" It's as if we're two kings under the same crown. Should only be one king. No, so God mitigated the moon, right? But in the future, the moon will be Vara Avana Korachama, right? And that's why we make Kiddush HaChodesh in the middle of the month as the moon starts expanding again. We pray, because we're waiting for a day that it will not just expand a little, but expand to be as great as the sun again. Why? Right? The sunlight is the good, the darkness is the bad, but the moon pierces that. That is the light that dispels the darkness. Hashem mitigated the moon, right, to make room for darkness, to give darkness its foothold in reality. Right? But the moon is destined in the future where everything will be all good. That's what it means. The moon will shine as brightly as the sun, dispel all the darkness representing the evil. Right? So now Hashem says on Rosh Chodesh, right, when we sanctify the new moon, says we bring a chatas amongst the other, the offerings that are brought on Rosh Chodesh. Part of the Musaf is a chatas, sirizim lechatas. Yeah, sirizim. What's the sin offering for? The sin offering is for Hashem says for me, as it were. I need an atonement because I mitigated the moon. Now, without getting to all the secrets, this is deep. Yud Hayarech is big sugyas in Kabbalah, right? But just what it means for our purposes, right? That what it means for our purposes is that Akash Baruch says, as the Maral explains, not that Akash Baruch sin, but Hashem says, kapara atonement also means to undo the damage. Hashem acknowledges, he didn't sin. Who did he sin against? He's God. He does what he wants. But he says, I need atonement. What this needs fixed, right? By making the moon small, I made room for evil, and that was by divine intent to give us a job to do it, to give us challenge and give us a job to do, right? but it's still something that needs fixing. That's the kapora. And every Rosh Chodesh, we're working with the service of Rosh Chodesh, to undo the harm, as it were, or the damage, that was caused by the mitigation of the moon. Because the moon was mitigated, that's why there's darkness, and that's the foothold of Sitra. And like we said, it has a time limit on it, right? But the moon even deprives the darkness of the time that it has, and that's the secret that generally speaking, our big holidays are when the moon is full. That's when we're most defeating evil, right? Pesach, Sukkot, Purim, right? Why Shavuos and Hanukkah are actually exceptions is another discussion, but that's why generally speaking, when the moon is full, right? It's called that's our strong time, that we're bringing more light in the world and dispelling more of the darkness. And the moon is the light that dispels the darkness, right? It's the light that shines through on the half of the day that God allotted for the evil. The moon pierces that. There's something else that does that. Candles. You don't need a shraga batira my honey. You don't need a candle during daylight, right? You need a candle at night. Candles are what we do. Ner Hashem Nishma Sarim says the candle of Hashem is the soul of a person. We've come to light up the world, but light up the world where it needs lighting up. How does the soul do that? Because there's another pasuk in Mishlei. Iner mitzvah the Torah or. For a mitzvah is a candle and Torah's light. That's exactly why mitzvahs are necessary. Why can't we just learn Torah? Torah is light, right? But we have to also bring light to the darkness. Light to the darkness, which is the function of the candle. Light up the darkness, right? And that's what mitzvahs with the body are. We put, the body is a creature of, it's a physical creature. It's susceptible to evil. Right? Susceptible to evil, susceptible to the Yetzer Hara, right? The body exists both by day and by night. That's why you should sleep at night, stay out of trouble. No, really, Swarm say that. The Ramchal says that. You should either learn Torah at night or sleep, one or the other. Don't be up during the night. It's baddie time. It's baddie time, and you'll just be. Don't they? Even the Bible say sin is rampant after 11. And even before they said that in our Hilchos Yichud, we were much more stringent with the laws of Yichud at night, because night's a time where whatever. Yetzer Hara has his foothold, right? But the mitzvahs that we do with the body is called a candle. It puts kedusha, the or of Torah, applies it to the bodily realm, and through the body, it filters out to the half dark of the universe, because the body, shares that space. The body exists both by day and by night. Right? The body has a Yetzer Tov, day, Yetzer Ra, parallel to the night. So you do mitzvahs, you put the Ora Torah in the body by the body doing an action in accordance with the Torah. That's called a candle. That's called, we applied light from the Torah and brought it into the bodily realm, and the body, shares, space, time and space with the evil that needs to be illuminated. So when you illuminate the body, you illuminate the world, particularly the side of the world that needs to be illuminated. All right. So now all this means that, so the cosmic order is what it is, because just like it's half day, half night, and it all balances out. It all balances out that, someday, during the summer, the days are longer and nights are shorter, but that's all counterbalanced by during the winter, where the nights are longer, the days are shorter. So it's 50-50. And that's the way the world was meant to be in Olam Hazeh, 50-50, right? A battle between the Yetzer Tov and the Yetzer Ra. It's supposed to be a fair fight. And that's, and that's why you really deserve a reward if you choose wisely, because you could have easily gone the other way also, right? So it's a fair fight. Now now we get our lowly generation, we're told by the rabbis, we get amazing reward for anything we do right, because the world is not just 50% bad; it's even more than 50% bad, because all the evil that's running rampant, right? I say like this: if the right is good and the left is bad, Problem is, as we see, the leftists took over the house, literally and figuratively, and it's not, the battle is not even 50-50. And that's what we say in Chanukah. Giborim biad chaloshim. God, you gave the mighty in the hands of the weak. Rabim biad ma'atim. Right, and the many in the hands of the few. Sadly, Chanukah already set the precedent to enable us to fight a battle where it's not 50-50, where it's stacked against us. It's stacked against us. But still we win. That's the power of Chanukah. Right? But what that means is all the laws of nature are as they are, right, to facilitate a 50-50 type of world, right? At best, before it changes, right? Before it's destined to change, right? Before it transmutes into a lamaba, before we cross over that edge. But during the time, within the box that we're speaking about, it's meant to be 50-50, and that's why we have the biology, chemistry, and physics that we have, right? We have the biology because that's the type of biology, chemistry, and physics you need for a world that to be 50-50 at best, right? And sadly, it's not at the best, and it's even more bad. But like we said, let's not get disheartened. That's all true within the box. But then comes Rosh Chodesh, the light of the moon that pierces that dark, and that's our first mitzvah we got as a people, because that sets the tone for our mission. We're candles, and all the other mitzvahs that we get after Kiddush Chodesh are candles, all following the Kiddush HaChodesh precedent. Light up the darkness, deprive the evil even of the turf that it was allotted, even the time that it was given, even take even that away from them, right? Or let's say in other words, Rosh Chodesh is Achishena. Rosh Chodesh is Mamish Keneged Achishena, that even within the box allotted for evil in time and space, you can light that up, dispel the darkness even on his turf. Right? Rosh Chodesh gives us Yom Tovim, and that's just to Yom Tovim and Shabbos. Shabbos is just beyond. Rosh Chodesh is, Yom Tovim are within this world. We make Aliyah L'Regel. So on Shabbos, we don't have to go to the base of Miketz, because wherever we are, we're elsewhere. We're with God wherever we are on Shabbos. We're just out of the box. Yom Tovim is that we're within the box, but we go to the base of Mikdash. That's why Yom Tov, it's Chalkeu. It's 50-50. Half for Hashem, half for us. Right? We don't, and that's why it's mutter to carry on Yom Tov. But not mutter to carry on Shabbos. Shabbos we're not allowed to carry because you have to stay in his domain. Stay in the Rosh Hashanah, right? Right? So you can't carry to the Rosh Hashanah or in the Rosh Hashanah, because that will be like you make your place in Rosh Hashanah if you're allowed to carry there. No, you just have to run through it, and don't take anything with you that could, be as if you have a presence there. Shabbos, we're only in Rosh Hashanah wherever we are. Yom Tov, you're allowed to carry. It's 50, because we have our own space on Yom Tov. Yom Tov, which comes from Kiddush HaChodesh. Kiddush HaChodesh, what empowers Yom Tov, right, is to put Kedusha within Olam Hazeh, the candle, to light up the darkness of this world. Now, of course, if they have the same type of calendar, but they use the calendar just to keep time. By us, Rosh Chodesh has significant sense that it's dispelling the darkness of this world, which means, buddy, your whole world order. Shabbos says it's temporary and limited. Rosh Chodesh says, I could take it away from you right now like this, right? Like that means it's not even real for the time that it has. That's what Rosh Chodesh represents. And that's what drove the Yevanim crazy. By the way, with this, it's very good. Right? We know that the women have to keep Rosh Chodesh as a Yom Tov because they didn't succumb to the Ched Ego. Now, in that Chazal that I quoted earlier, that we've quoted time and time again, right, that the Choshech, darkness is Yavan, right? So Rosh Chodesh, the light of the moon pierces that darkness. That darkness is reality as they see it, which they think is infinite. It must always be. Shabbos says, it's got an edge. It's only true at best temporarily. Rosh Chodesh says, even on its own turf, it could be dispelled. It's not even real during the time and space that it has. Rosh Chodesh is constantly changing it, constantly, eroding it. Right? So now, but getting back to the point, you know, they always say "Achosh Yom" because Heshira in so he darkened our eyes. And why said one of the exeres they made that called darkening our eyes per se is they said Kisru al Karen Ashra Elechem Chelpo so engrave on a horn of an ox. You have nothing to do with God. You're just plain people like me and you. You don't have a special connection with God. Why on a horn of an ox? Who stick in our face cheta ego. Now, cheta ego, or the sin of the golden calf, sure, Karen Ashore, calf, right? Ox, right? There's, because, first of all, how did we succumb to the sin? Right? Well, we lost our perspective. They're sticking that in our face. You think you guys see truth, didn't you lose your perspective and make that ego? But we know as a result of that sin, Torah is not easily visible. We can just look at the Torah and say we have to like really break our heads over it, particularly with the Torah Shabbal Peh, to understand even what the Chumash is saying, like what we explained yesterday. And that's all because of Chet Egos. They're sticking in our face, right? That that's why Shicha Einehem, that's called the dark night, reminds us of the Chet Ego. This thing, you see truth, you see truth. You know, your lack of vision that you claim that you have, right? You claim you have a vision. Well, that lack you clearly lack that vision that you claim you have because A, you succumb to the sin, and B, right, because of the sin, right. That's why Torah learning is so difficult. That it's very hard for. We have to work very hard. Buddy, you're spiritually blind. Don't say you have this spiritual vision that we don't have. Right? Will darken our eyes. Whereas we want the higher end in Ubisarasecha. And they're stressing how your eyes are just as blind to spiritual light as ours. Cut the garbage. Cut the garbage, you're the same like us. You don't see any special light that we don't. That's called they darken our eyes. They stick it in our face, and it could be very disheartening to us that we could give up because we do have to work hard to see the light of Torah. Right? We daven, Hashem, please, Gal Einai, if I open my eyes to see the wonders. They're sticking in our face how we don't naturally see that light without Hashem helping us. A, without us working hard, and B, without Hashem rewarding that effort. Yagata umatasa, right? Right. So that, but the women who didn't succumb to Cheda Ego, they got Rosh Chodesh as a Yom Tov. How much Mida can I get Mida? Right. They never lost perspective. Right. They never lost perspective from the Kiddush HaChodesh agenda that sets the tone for our mission as the Jewish people and the tone for all mitzvahs. And that's why they got Rosh Chodesh as a Yom Tov. How much Mida can I get Mida? They never lost their perspective. Right. So for them, Rosh Chodesh is not just a day that has to be marked with special korbanos. It's a Yom Tov because they held the faith. They never lost the perspective that Rosh Chodesh brings to the world. That secular world is not even real and absolute, even during the time that it has. So now to just bring it home to Rosh Chodesh Teves per se. So first of all, the Chidush Arim says Teves is Miloshin Hatavas Haneros, to set up the light of the menorah, and the base measure is called Hatavas Haneros, which according to Rambam meant Hatavas Haneros means not just to set up the candles, but to light them. According to Rambam, you lit them during the day also. You didn't just set them up. Hatavas Haneros. So Teves Losh Hatavas Haneros. But okay, but the Chidush was just dropping a cute in to some, and he was alluding to something much deeper. But it says in the Sefer Yetzirah, right? That what rains in the month of Teves, and with this we're ending, guys. I hope you hung tight. I see we lost some people along the way, but it's good stuff, man. Come on. And definitely subscribe to our channel. Subscribe to our channel. Oh yeah, and like our stuff. Come on, you guys are so stingy. Got like X amount of subscriptions, but no one likes my stuff. Why can't you just give me the thumbs up? Come on. Don't be stingy. Subscribe and like the channel. Like the channel. Subscribe to the channel and like it. Anyways. But anyway, getting back just to go full circle, and with this we'll let you go. You have a lot to think about, right? Himlich os ayin baroges. What reigns in the month of Tevis is the letter ayin, right? With Rogus means frustration, for tension. Ayin with tension, very deep, right? This totally captures everything that we've been talking about. You know, the first of all, ayin means eye. That letter, as a word, means eyes. Tension in the eyes, like we see things differently than they do. They have a different world view, which they're blind to, right? And so it's all the tension is in the eyes. Two different world views, our worldview versus theirs, right? And we readily get our worldview we get from the Torah, we get it from the lights of the Hanukkah candles, right? It's a whole different perspective that we have to work very hard to see. Even we who believe in it so strongly have to work very hard to see it. And Hanukkah candles represent the moonlight, which represent the light that pierces darkness, which is the light of Emunah. You need faith at night. Now we have to work very hard to it. But why do you have to work so hard for it? Because of the sin of Adam. And subsequently that made a comeback. Even though we overcame it before getting the Torah, and we had our eyes open, our eyes were shut again by the sin of the golden calf, which is what the Greeks try to stick in our face, right? Remind us of the golden calf. So don't tell me you've got a spiritual vision that we don't have, right? But why are we so blind? Well, once upon a time, we saw all the light. Didn't we mention earlier in this session? Adam saw the hidden light, till Motzai Shabbos. We used to see all the light that's hidden in the Torah. All that hidden light was visible to us when we ourselves were creatures of light. As it says, Chazal tells us in the Sefer Torah of Rabbi Meir, they found that Adam and Hashem made for Adam like kosnos, or vestments of ore with an aleph of light. We used to be beings of pure light. Right? And when we were beings of pure light, we were able to perceive the light of Torah naturally. And also, you can explain when we were beings of pure light, you could run around naked as long as be embarrassed about with pure light, right? When we ate from the Eitz Tadas, we went from or with an aleph of light to or with an ayin to skin. Went from light to skin, right? Light is aleph vav resh, skin is ayin vav resh. We went from light to skin. And having flesh eyes don't see divine light naturally. We need the Torah to enlighten us. And the Torah is that divine light put in intellectual terms, but even so, to unlock the divine light, we have to work really hard at it. Can't just stop read it, right? Because flesh eyes, we went from or to or, so the ayin, when ayin, letter ayin, which makes or flesh, right? When we became creatures of flesh, it affected our eyes, that our eyes don't naturally see spiritual light. The natural perspective is their perspective, right? I mean, at least of the Goyim on the right, on the left, a bunch of perfect, right? But sadly, the secular perspective, the good secular perspective is the natural perspective. The Torah perspective is not natural to the flesh eye, a eye of pure light. It's because ayin is with an ayin, right? It's a flesh eye. We have to pray, Gal Ein, and that's the tension. And that also, the revised cover points out an amazing thing. If Adam would have not sinned, how many nations would there have been? He would have not sinned, right? He would have gone straight to Olam Haba, and he would have had a lot of kids born in that, perfected state. How many nations? One nation, just the Jewish people. I mean, what we call Jewish would have been the only type of humanity. That's the secret that the Jewish people called Goy Echad Ba'aretz. We find many references. Ayel Echad Kneged Uma Yechid. We're called the one nation. What do you mean the one nation? So many nations. Look at the whole damn UN. God, may God close it soon. Right? Just defund it, really. Right? And it was bad. It started with 70. Now it's like, I don't know, somebody sitting there just condemning Israel all day. Anyway, perverts. Anyway, climate change and condemning Israel. We'll go over there. Anyway, so where did it come from? So it was revised. It's amazing. Elementally, elementally, it only meant to be 70 nations. Like they subdivided, right? When we went from Or with an Aleph, which is Gematria 1, to Or with an Ayin, to being creatures of flesh, is from the flesh side of Adam that emerged because of the sin, right? That there could be 70 nations. So when he went from Or, Aleph, Gematria 1, to Or, flesh with the Ayin, Gematria 70, right? That's what enabled the emergence of 70 nations. If we would have only stayed creatures of light, there would have only been one nation. And that's the way it'll be in the future. There's only going to be one nation, us. All the other righteous Gentiles are going to join us. Whether as if they didn't convert before Mashiach came, we don't accept converts after Mashiach comes, but they could, annex themselves to Jewish people without getting into all the details of how and in what way Hasidus, but it's only one nation, right? And that's why we call ourselves the one nation that was always meant to be, or one, Aleph, or with an Aleph, one, as opposed to or with an Ayin, it's 70, right? And that's what causes the tension. We used to be creatures of, just purely good and the evil is external. Now we're full of inner tension, roges. And that's the lashon of Chazal. Lolam yargiz adam yetzer tov yetzer hara. You should always have your yetzer tov in fight mode against your yetzer hara. Tension. We're always in tension. BK shot, and these are all these Parshas, are all about no safe. BK Yaakov wants to sit in peace. Kofav Rub Zoshel Yosef. He had the tension of Yosef because Hashem says you only sit in peace in Olam Haba. You don't sit in peace in Olam Hazeh. Right? It's nothing about being a sadist or being a masochist. It's just that in Olam Hazeh it's full of tension, right? So there's no sitting in peace. Peace in Olam Haba, right? So you had the tension of Yosef, There's no sitting in peace in this world because it's an ongoing battle. It's the battle between the Aleph and the Ayin, right? The one nation versus 70 nation. That's Himlich Ots Ayin Beroges, right? The letter Ayin, flesh, right? Reigns, with tension, because it's all the tension between us and the Goyim, and the tension between us and ourselves internally is all because of the Ayin that we went from Or with an Aleph, vestments of light, to Or with an Ayin, vestments of flesh, which is dark, adulterated with evil, susceptible to evil. Also, if you could read Or, flesh, you could read an Iver, blind. That all goes together. Flesh eye, as opposed to an eye that's pure light that therefore could perceive light, perceive divine light. If the eye itself is eyes of light, it could definitely see light. We became eyes of flesh. They can't see the divine light. And we fight to bring out the divine light with Kiddush HaChodesh, with Ner Chanukah, bring out the hidden light, the 36 candles, the 36 hours that the hidden light did shine within this world in Adam's experience. Well, it's a secret. Atem Kurim Adam Vena Akurim, only we're called Adam. We're the one nation that was always meant to be, that Adam was always meant to beget. Those other guys are an accident, because of the sin of when he went from light to flesh. So it's all ayin baroges, right? Now, you know what? And I'm just going to drop another geschmacka hint to make you guys come back Sunday night. The piece of flesh that represents, how man became a creature. There's like one piece of flesh that is supposed to be the representation of how man has fallen to the level of flesh, fallen from light to flesh. And that piece of flesh per se is the orla, the foreskin. And that's what Bris Milah takes away. And that's another connection to Chanukah. The Chanukah candles is like the moonlight to dispel the darkness. They legislate against Kiddush HaChodesh because it ruins the cosmic balance. That's what the Jewish people, that's why they hate us so much. We ruin the cosmic balance. There's a cosmic balance between good and evil, and we're trying to tilt the scales towards good. That's the light of the moon. That's the candles that are the Jewish people. That's the candles of the mitzvahs that they do, and that's what the Ner Chanukah represents. Rosh help, it should be a Geshma, a lichtige Chanukah, light. It's all about light, bringing light to the world, right? And a good Shabbos where we Maamar feel on this Chanukah that Chanukah is about we fought for Shabbos, so we should really feel Shabbos, this Shabbos Chanukah, right? And Rosh Chodesh, put the Chodesh. Zman kapara chol toldosam, that all our offspring should have their kapara meaning all have their tikkun, that we're going to rid ourselves of the darkness within our lives, right here and right now, even before the absolute edge of time. All right. Have a good night, everybody. Listen, subscribe to the channel, right? And like us. Don't be stingy with the thumbs up. And also visit our website, evanshashia.com. There's so much stuff there. It's like two different sets of Parsha sheets for this week that you can print out, and there's so many audios and videos there. So go to our website, see that on the screen. It's going to stay on the channel side. But don't forget to subscribe to our channel. And please don't be stingy. Do us a favor. Give us a thumbs up. Like our stuff. Have a good night, everybody. A good Shabbos and good Chodesh.